You ready? Let's go. 2-minute daily devo for Tuesday, December 13th. I'm in the New International Version today, and our verse of the day comes from the book of Psalms, chapter 126. Little context here before we get to our verse of the day. You will read in the Old Testament that there were many times that God's people, the Israelites, turned their backs on God. They'd serve God for a while, then they'd get mixed in and with other nations, and it would cause them to take their eyes off of God and start, doing the things and the customs that the other nations were doing. And a lot of times God would allow them to be taken captive by other nations just to get their attention because they had turned their backs on Him. And this portion of Scripture in Psalms 126 is referring to one of those times that they were taken captive by the Babylons. And they were taken captive and they were not sure what they were going to do, and they were calling out to God, and God had restored them again and rescued them. And then in verse 5, this is our verse of the day, it says this: "Those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy." This is referring to a time when they were taken captive, and, they were obviously crying out to God and saying, "God, please rescue us. We're sorry. We want to ask for forgiveness and come back to you." And they had these tears, obviously, but God says, "Hey, I'm going to be faithful, and you are reaping now in tears, but I'm going to be faithful, and there will be a harvest of joy that will come out of this." Here's what I feel this is saying to us. How many things do we go through in our lives that cause us to have tears, that cause us to weep, that cause us to say, "God, where are you? God, help us. God, help me. I'm stuck in the middle of this situation or this problem." How many issues or problems do we deal with in our lives that where we feel like we are alone, that we feel like God is far away, that we feel like we just don't know what to do? I've had those times in my life, and maybe you have as well, where you lose a loved one, or you got into something that you shouldn't have done, and that causes you to weep tears of sadness. But God says this, and this is the promise, and God always has a promise for us. He says that you are weeping with tears. You're crying out to me and sowing these tears of sadness, but I'm going to cause a harvest of joy, that I'm going to turn this around for you. God always heard the cries of His people and rescued them. And God always hears our prayers and our cries, and God is going to rescue us as well. There is a promise of joy, and that promise of joy may not even be here on earth. It could be, and God can rescue out of things, here on earth. But listen, this world and this life is but an instance when it comes into the grand scheme of eternity. And that reaping of joy, that harvest of joy, that could be and talks about our ultimate destination, which is in heaven. That one day, no matter what we've gone through, no matter the hardships or pain or struggles here on earth, we will have a harvest of joy to be with Christ in heaven for all eternity. But God promises you this: if you're weeping and planting seeds of tears, there is a harvest coming, and He is going to turn things around for you. All right, that's it, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.